Good morning. I'm James Haken, the MC for eTourism New Zealand Conference 2012, being held in Auckland on the 19th and 20th of September. Welcome to this, the first in our series of 10-minute on Tuesday podcasts designed to introduce you to the speakers for this year's conference and learn why you should be attending. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Jens Thraenhart, who is on the line from Beijing in China. Jens, one of our international keynote speakers, who will be sharing his experience and knowledge on how you as a New Zealand-based tourism company can best market to Chinese visitors. So without further ado, let's welcome Jens onto the call. Hello, Jens.
Hello, James. How are you? And thank you for inviting me to join your podcast.
Thank you for taking the time. I know it's a lot earlier in the morning for you.
It's a great pleasure to be invited to New Zealand. I've never been to New Zealand, as you said. I've worked for the Canadian Tourism Commission, and obviously I'm originally from Germany, so have lived in North America and in Europe and now in Asia, doing a lot of stuff obviously in China and also in Southeast Asia as we're working with ASEAN. But it's a delight, and I'm very excited, especially because New Zealand is actually quite innovative as they're looking to connect and reach Chinese consumers via social media and the web. So I think it'll be great to share some of our experiences and see how we may help some of the attendees that are joining your conference in leveraging our technologies, our approaches, and the social media landscape in China to reach the affluent and what we call the new Chinese consumer that is traveling all over the world.
Oh, that's a really great point. I think one of the things that we've had drummed into us here in New Zealand, particularly by Tourism New Zealand, is that for so long now, the Chinese market's been such an important market for us, and we see the airport authorities particularly really interested because they're getting good numbers of Chinese through. But some of the issues we face is that a number of these tourists are travelling here for just 3 or 4 days at a time, which to the New Zealand tourism industry seems so bizarre because we're so used to people staying for 3 or 4 weeks at a time. So it would be really interesting to get your take when you come to the conference on that. Is there anything more that you can kind of tell us about how we can hit some of the right Chinese visitors?
Well, I think that the first thing, it really starts in understanding the Chinese consumer and the changing consumer behavior. A lot of people still have the notion of it's all about the mass tour groups and mass consumers that follow the flag. But even while there always will be big tour groups that will travel around the world, there is a growing demand for individual travel, for niche travel, for customized experiences. And I think that's very unique in how New Zealand has been positioning themselves with Pure New Zealand and how the website globally has been laid out. And I think translating that into really reaching Chinese consumer is key. So the first thing is really understanding how to reach out and not just jump into the market quickly. That's how many people basically got disappointed in results. And then obviously social media is the key now to reach the Chinese consumers. Maybe just to give you a little bit of a snippet there, that if you compare the influence level of how people look at microblogging all over the world, there was a survey out that was actually done 2 years ago that asked, would you trust a company more if they microblogged and engaged via microblogging? And when you compare it in the US, for example, when you combine I trusted a lot more and trusted a little more, you come to 22%. In Europe, it's a little bit less. It's a little bit higher in Japan. And when you hit China, you're actually reaching 95%. Basically saying if you're not on microblogging, if it's Sina Weibo or QQ Weibo, and engaging that in a relevant way, you probably don't even exist as a company that is being trusted. The second point I would make is that when you design a Chinese website, it's not about translating the website from English to Chinese, but you need to really rewrite the content for search engines. You need to really tailor the content for the market. That means that sometimes there's content that actually needs to be recreated or newly created, like information about safety or Chinese restaurants and so on. Then the website needs to be hosted in China for speed reasons, and also um, for better optimizations with search engines like Baidu. And lastly, you want to make sure that you don't create content gaps, meaning that you link out to partners that have just an English website and cannot afford or have the resources to develop their own Chinese web presence. So those are all kind of things that need to be uh, kept in mind when designing a strategy for the Chinese market. And just maybe to give your readers or your listeners a quick intro. I mean, we've just published our second edition of our China Travel Trends book. There's various articles in there from specialists that focus on the Chinese market, from aviation, hotels, green, to also luxury consumer, and also internet, social media, and mobile. And people can download that book for free at chinatraveltrendsbook.com.
That's really great, and yeah, I've certainly already downloaded it, and I would certainly recommend it to everyone listening. And I know that when we were talking before we went on air here just now, that you said that it was something that may be able to give a few giveaways throughout your talk at eTourism conference. That would be really great for people to come along and hear what you've got to say, and then take away what you've got to say in the form of that book, or go back and download it themselves. So obviously you've touched there on your background a little bit in terms of the working in Canada and so on. But it would be really great to hear a little bit more about what brought you to where you are now, working in China, and yeah, just a little bit more about your background, Jens.
Well, it's quite interesting. I never planned to be in China. I used to be head of e-commerce for Fairmont Hotels and Resorts, based in Toronto, a luxury hotel company. And while I was working there, obviously we looked at international marketing, and we were probably one of the first hotel companies that did a Chinese mini site, together with other countries or languages from Japan, Japanese to German, and French and so on. But I mean, basically, ventured out and looked at the Chinese market, almost 10 years ago. And then I joined the Canadian Tourism Commission and was a head of marketing strategy for them, heading up e-marketing, CRM, and campaign management. And there we also developed a Chinese website, about 5 to 6 years ago already, or even seven. I'm not sure. And so we're probably one of the first countries there with the Canadian Tourism Commission that looked at the Chinese market when it comes to a web presence. Obviously, the Canadian Tourism Commission has an office in Beijing that is very active in the market. And the Canadian Tourism Commission is also one of our clients of Dragon Trail Interactive. And just last year, we won Best E-Marketing Campaign by Travel Weekly China for our campaign, where we build a virtual game to have Chinese consumers travel and do a virtual experience in Canada, and then have a chance to win a trip to Canada. And so that was quite successful, where we basically were able to increase fans on Sina Weibo, the microblogging platform, which basically people said, well, it's kind of like a Twitter equivalent, but Sina Weibo has morphed into more a equivalent, a combination of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube altogether. So it's really the most powerful platform in China right now to reach people. But we basically combined all these social media elements, from a mini site to a game to social media platforms, and it was very successful. So going back to my background, so I come basically from the hotel side and then also the tourism side, but I've always focused on how to leverage technology and digital marketing to really reach and connect with consumers.
That's great. Wow. I must say that we feel very privileged to be having you as one of our international keynote speakers at the conference this year. So we're literally just over the 10-minute mark, and considering we're calling this 10 minutes on Tuesday, I am going to have to call it a day. But it's been really great to have you along, and to be able to talk to you about what we're going to be talking about later in the year at the eTourism conference. And I really wanted to say thank you very much to everyone that's listening, and we look forward to welcoming you back next week for our next round, where we'll be again speaking to one of our international speakers. And big thank you to you, Jens, for taking the time out to come. And of course, we want you to all head on to the eTourism New Zealand website, that's etourismnz.info, and make sure that you book your ticket for the conference so that you're not going to miss out on what's set to be an absolutely brilliant couple of days. So thank you very much, Jens, and thank you for everyone for listening.
Thank you, James.